Hello and welcome to this tutorial where I will teach you how to use tags. Now, tags are very powerful. However, I find that they aren't being used as much as they should. Whereas they offer close to limitless possibilities when it comes to categorization of blueprint actors in the level, in the project, or making them interact with each other. So, now let's go through what you should expect from this lecture. So, we will begin with talking about what tags are and how can we use them to our benefit. Then we will proceed to different categories of tags, and these are actually three. There are actor tags, there are component tags, and finally we have gameplay tags, which are very complex and very powerful. However, gameplay tags we will leave for another lecture. In this lecture we will majorly focus on actor tags, and I also prepared a workshop for you, which hopefully you will do together with me, where we will attach a tag to our player character in the runtime. Basically, my idea is that I want to attach a tag to the player character, which will give it a status effect, so to say. For instance, radiation. Like, you know, in games, when you go through irradiated areas, you might get afflicted with radiation, and while you're in this area, you start losing health. And this approach allows me to kind of explain all the way through how actor tag works, how we attach them like in the runtime, and how can one blueprint affect another one using tags. So, if you find these topics interesting, then stay tuned, because we're gonna go through all of them in depth, and I think you will learn a couple of things that maybe you didn't know so far, or maybe you just want to recall something that you already knew, or maybe you want to sharpen your knowledge. Anyway, I think if it comes to tags, this lecture would be very beneficial for you. So, thanks for joining me, and I think it's right time to begin. Okay guys, so as you can see on my screen, I have this third-person template opened, and I haven't changed anything in it whatsoever, because we're gonna do it together, right? Good. So, if you've seen my previous lectures, you know that I like to keep stuff organized, and that's why I'll create a separate folder for blueprints. I will right-click somewhere in the empty space of the content browser and select New Folder. I will call it BPS for blueprints, and I'd also like to change its color. Like, set color, and like this tint of bluish something. You know, just to easily distinguish these folders, and since I'm usually working with blueprints, I can find them fast and easy, like this, when they are of separate color. And I suggest you do the same. Just choose what colors you like. And by assigning these colors, you can quickly find the folders you're looking for. In my case, it's this tint of blue for blueprints folder. Okay. Then I will open it, right-click, and create a blueprint class, which is, I will call it BP for blueprint, and I'll call it status effect. Okay. Before I open up this blueprint, I'd like to say a couple of words about what it will do in this project. So technically, I imagine it will be sort of a rectangle, which will mark the zone of effect of various status effects. Like, for instance, we can have a rectangle that tags the actor who overlapped it with a tag that we assign. In our case, let's do a status effect, something like radiation damage, so on, etc. So let me open it up like this. And technically, as I said, we need a sort of a rectangle, which in this case would be cube. And let's name this cube like player overlap. Compile, save. I'll dock it right over here. Good. And if we place this cube now in the level and test it out, as you can see, we cannot go through it. And we actually want our player character to pass through it, because when our character passes through it, it will receive a tag from the status effect blueprint in the level, right? Let's code it. So I'll open it up again. And first things first, with this player overlap static mesh selected, this component, I will search for collision or start typing collision. And instead of block all dynamic, I will choose overlap all. Compile, save. So now, since it's set to overlap all, it means that any other actor does not collide with this status effect, with this player overlap static mesh, but it registers whoever does it. Or I mean, it will register whoever does it, whoever overlaps this cube. Let me show you. So now we can easily go through it. But now we need to kind of code what happens when our character overlaps with this status effect cube. So let's go to the coding part. We can right-click on this player overlap and add event to it. This event is on component begin overlap. So let me explain. You probably know it already, but let me explain just to make sure you know what I'm talking about and we're on the same wavelength, so to say. On component begin overlap, node fires off from its execution pin whenever any actor overlaps with this player overlap, so with this cube, right? But we don't care about other actors. We care when the player character collides with the status effect, with this player overlap of the status effect blueprint. This is why we can drag from this other actor output pin and say get tags. See, variables actor get tags. I'm getting the tag. So what I'm doing is whatever overlaps with the player overlap component of the status effect blueprint, we will get its tags. And one actor can have many tags. Like, you're not limited to the amount of tags, various tags per actor. And we get all its tags. And to these tags, we're gonna add, so I'm dragging from this output array pin, tags output array pin, and I'm saying add. Make sure you select add that is under the array tab, right? Not the other one. So this one is something else. Select this add and hook it up like this. Okay, I like it. Now, this add node asks us what tag to add. Right over here. We can start typing radiation. And technically it would work. By the end of the project it would work. But why make it only radiation? Because we can use the same cube for various status effects. So why not come up with what status effects it has right in the level blueprint? Because it's easy. We can have like thousands of these cubes in various spots in our level. Like this, like this, like this. By the way, I'm holding Alt to quickly duplicate. these cubes, and there could be different. For instance, this could be radiation damage, this could be fire damage, this could be like ice damage, snow damage, whatever damage you come up with. So why not make it so that this single blueprint can be of any type of damage? I'm sure. So instead of writing radiation here, I will remove this and I will right click on this input pin and say promote to a variable, right? I will name this variable like status effect, like this. So now we can make instance of status effect variable editable. Instance editable, click this one. And make sure you have the status effect selected. And when you have it selected, click on instance editable. And I will explain why we're doing this. So now, if we compile and save, return to the level viewport, we can see that we can assign whatever status we want to each of these blueprints, status effect blueprints. For instance, this one could be radiation. This one could be ice. This one could be fire. And whatever. I will remove these two because these three are far more than I need to explain what I'm doing, right? And there is also one more thing. As you can see, when I click on these, we have this status effect right over here, right? The ones that we were filling in. So these, like this default menu exists here only because we made the instance of status effect editable, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't see that option. So let me show you. If I remove this checkbox from instance editable, then compile, then save, and return to the level viewport. As you can see, this default menu, not default menu, but the pane that had option to input the status effect is gone. It's not here anymore. So this is why, since I wanted to assign tag to each of these blueprint status effect instances, that's why I made its instance editable. So let me make its instance editable again. And the worst thing is that it probably forgot what tags we already inputted. But this is only for demonstration purposes. You don't have to remove this instance editable tag whatsoever. I'm just explaining why we're using it. So now again, as you can see, these cubes have this status effect. So again, this one was ice. This could be fire, or I mean, this one was ice. This one was fire. And this one was radiation. Radiation, like this. So that's what instance editable does on a variable. And you can make all variables, all their instances editable so that you can make changes right in the level viewport to its values, right? Okay, let's continue. Okay, so this one was radiation. Now, each time the player character overlaps with this cube, it will assign radiation tag to the character. So the character will get a radiation. Now, when the character steps aside or moves beyond the boundaries of this cube, I'd like this effect to stop. So technically what I'm saying is that once we're outside of the boundaries of this cube, the radiation effect needs to stop. So we stop losing health, right? So let's program that part. Now, in the same blueprint, we can again right-click on the player overlap, say Add Event, and say on component end overlap. Now comes the tricky part. We want the status effect blueprint to remove the effect it has attached to the player character. For instance, since this one is radiation, when we move away, I want it to remove radiation. Because like player can have multiple status effects, negative status effects, like pass through here is radiation, then it's ice over here, and so on, etc. So the damage can be combined. So some damage may come from radiation, some damage may come from blizzard, freezing, so on, etc. So if this one, once we step aside from this queue, I want the radiation to end, so to say. In technical terms, I'd like to remove radiation tag from the third-person character blueprint, right? So, but we need to make sure it's the same effect. What I'm saying is that first, we need to, on end overlap, we need to drag from other actor and ask whether it has tags. So, has tag. Right? Now we can drag this status effect from here and plug it in here. Then we can branch it out like this. Finally, if it has the same tag, so this tag causes radiation, right? Since we wrote here radiation right over here, it will cause radiation. So if it's the same tag, in this case, if it's radiation, then what we need to do is drag from this other actor, get tags again, like this. And this time we'd like to remove, not add, but remove a tag. Remove item. Yes, there it is. Array, remove item. This one. The one where I'm pointing my mouse, not the one that is highlighted. So this remove. Oh no, I'm sorry. Remove item. It was correct. Yeah, this one. Remove item. Okay. So remove item. Let me do it again so that I'm sure you know which one to choose. So remove item. This one. The highlighted one and where my mouse is at. Remove item. And then again we can take this status effect and plug it in here. Easy. Let's analyze quickly so that I'm sure you understood. So when anything, whatever, overlaps with our status effect blueprint, this one, it will assign a tag to the overlapping actor, the other actor. See? What we do is, the moment the overlap occurred, we drag from the other actor. We analyze other actor, get all its tags, and to its tags, to its already existing tags. In our case, it doesn't have any tags, but in some other cases, your character can have like 20, 50, I don't know, whatever tags, whatever amount of tags. But in this case, it doesn't have any, and we tell it to add a tag over here. So we're adding a status effect, this variable. And since its instance is editable, we are free to assign a name to the status effect. So to this variable, this name is being assigned through here, yeah, through over here. This, and this. So they're all different. And this means that when our player character overlaps with this cube, it received a radiation tag, right? So since this is radiation, and you get the radiation set over here to status effect, and then this tag is being added. Okay, now what happens when we step aside, move outside of the boundaries of the status effect cube, this one, like when we step aside, I'd like this to happen. So the very moment our player character leaves the boundaries of the status effect blueprint, this chunk of code is fired. Which means, first, we're asking whether the actor that just exited the boundaries of status effect blueprint has a tag, and whether it has the same tag. In our case, radiation. So here, and if it does have this tag, then we go to this branch, we fire from true since it does, and we remove this tag. See? Here we say remove, so we drag from the other actor all the tags over here, and we remove them. So if the player character has radiation tag, it will get removed. This is only in case of this cube. By the way, we can change its color so we can distinguish it better. Like player overlap, let's make it radiation green maybe. Let's search for some materials which are green, like this for instance, so that we just know which one. This one was ice. Ice can be blue. For a friend blue. Let it be this one. And finally we have this was fire. Right. Let's make fire something orangish or reddish, something like this. Yeah, for instance this. Looks good. So, fire, ice, and radiation. Anyway, so okay, we successfully attached the tags to actor that overlapped and removed the tags from the actor that left the boundaries of this status effect blueprint. Here, as I said, we're adding a tag, and once actor exits boundaries, we remove it. Right over here. Good. Now, how do we know this actually happens? I mean, I know you trust me, but we don't know for sure whether it works. So what we need to do now is to add a code to our third-person character, a default player blueprint. This one, let me find it. So I'll return to content. Here I will search for third-person character. And now we need to do a couple of things here. I will leave this code alone. We don't actually need any of it. We need, I think the best way to monitor whether status has any effect on the player is through HP, health, right? So we can quickly implement health variable here. I will click on this tiny plus icon. Then I will type HP, like health points. Then instead of Boolean, I will change it to float, right? This one. Floating point nunc. Good. I will compile and save. Let's set its default value to 100, like 100%, full. Again, compile and save. And so the player starts with full health. Where do we see it? I don't want to get too deep into widgets and stuff, and this is why we're going to use easier method, like a debugging method. We will just implement event tick, this one, which keeps firing all the time. And we're just gonna say print string, like this, and hook up this HP so that it shows our health, right? So compile, save, and let's try it out. As you can see, right over here, we see that health is 100. Our player character's health is full, so 100%, right? If we go inside these cubes now, nothing will happen, which is obvious because while we're attaching tags to the player character. However, the player character doesn't know what to do with these tags. Okay, it has like this fire tag at the moment, for instance. So what do I do if I have fire tag? And this is exactly what we're gonna code right now. So let me exit out from here. And let's add event begin play, this node, this one. So this is the node that fires right after the blueprint is loaded in the level. It has to be in the level. So on event begin play, no, let's leave event begin play alone for a moment and create a custom event. Right click somewhere in the empty space of the events graph and start looking for custom event like this. And let's call this custom event status effects checker loop, something like this. Right? And I will explain why it's a loop. And it will be a loop because we will be checking it constantly. Okay, so our loop is ready. Then it's very important to add a delay. So let me just move this side a bit, like this. Let's make 1 second delay. And what happens afterwards? So we need to check whether this actor, our player character, has a tag. How do we do that? Easy. Right click. We just say actor has tag. And as you can see, it's already self here. So if this actor, the one that we're playing with, has a tag, and it asks us what tag. First one was radiation. We started to work on radiation. So, and guys, this is very, very important. It has to be exactly written, exactly the way it is written here. So it's case sensitive, and you gotta be very careful not to write something else. Otherwise, the code won't work at all. So if it's radiation here, I copy this radiation, I go to third person character, and then in the tag field, I will just paste radiation like this. Then I will branch it out like this. And say if our player character has radiation tag, then it needs to start losing health. While the tag is there on the player, while the player is tagged, so to say, it needs to lose health. How do we do that? I will hold Control on my keyboard, drag this HP variable right over here. Then I will say minus, like this, subtract. Let's subtract like 5 units. And then I will hold Alt, drag and drop it right over here to set the variable, the value of the variable. Hook it up from true like this. And then we just need to restart the cycle. So we need to call this status effects checker. Status effects checker loop. Perfect. And hook it up. Hook this false output pin to. Okay, let's analyze. So what happens? Oh, and we need to call it on event begin play. This is very important. So this loop needs to run at least once. Something needs to trigger it. In our case, this could be this event begin play. So let me status effects checker loop. This one. So this one fires right when this blueprint loads in the level. Once it fires, this is triggered, and this causes a 1 second delay. You can write whatever you want here. And then it's gonna see if the player character has radiation tag. So here we have actor has tag, and if it has tag, then go ahead and subtract 5 points of health. If it doesn't have a tag, just continue the flow and run status effects checker loop again. So each second, this node will check whether player has radiation tag, and if he or she does, then subtract health. If it doesn't have, if player doesn't have the tag, then just it will fire from false. And this will just keep going on forever until there's tag introduced. So let's check it out now. I will compile, save, and let's test it out. Okay, so this one is radiation. I think it's the only one where we coded what needs to happen, and I'm going inside. And as you can see on the left side of the screen, my player character started to lose health 5 points each second. Okay, when I step aside, I don't lose health anymore because the tag has been removed. Remember, we had this on component end overlap, and when we did this, when the overlap ended, the player lost its radiation tag, which in turn caused it not to lose health anymore. But if we move on to other, so this one was ice, nothing happens. Which is, of course, obvious since we didn't program what needs to happen. And this is something we're gonna do now. We can do it, we'll do it a couple of times so that you remember better. What I'm saying is that instead of ending the loop here, we can do such a thing. We can copy this, paste it right over here like this, hook it up like this. Make sure to hook it up correctly, otherwise this code won't work. Then we can hook it up like this, and instead of radiation this time, we will ask whether player character has ice status effect tag, right? So instead of radiation, I will paste ice here, and notice I copied and pasted, just not to, typos, stuff like this, that it could really mess up the project. So I'm copying and paste just to remain on the safe side. And then again, I hook up the execute pin coming from like true, then over here, and false. Same to the status effects checker loop, so that this loop continues firing. And each second it will check whether player has radiation tag or ice tag. And if it does, it will execute corresponding code, whatever we coded it to do. Good, let's test it out. So we added ice. We already know that this radiation is working. Now let's go to the ice cube. Let's keep our fingers crossed like this. And, yep, as you can see, our player character started to lose health. Nothing happens if we go to the fire cube. Let's quickly program it so that it's consistent, and usually the more times we repeat something, the better it is to remember, right? So again, I will move this aside. I will copy and paste these blueprints, hook them up like this. And instead of ice, it was fire. Let me copy and paste it, not to make any mistakes. Fire, I'm copying it. Control C on keyboard. I will paste Control V on my keyboard, and then I will just close the loop. Not close the loop, but let it flow again from the beginning. So now each second we will determine whether our player character has any of these tags, radiation, ice, or fire, and see, and the damage will occur. Let's make it so that fire causes like 17 points of damage, just to make sure that everything works correctly, right? So I changed this to 17, compiled, saved. Now I will click play, go ahead and play. And if we enter the fire cube, we start losing 17 points per second. So, what do you think? It's quite easy, right? Okay, guys, so before I let you go, I'd like to show you one more thing, which I find very important and necessary to note. So far, we've been working on these blueprint classes. So this cube, and this cube, all of them are blueprint classes, right? Class PP, status effect. But did you know that you can use tags to interact with anything in the level? Like, for instance, this static mesh We can use tags, we can tag it, and then interact with it. So let me show you how it's done. First, I will select this cube. Then I will, in its search field, I will select all, and make sure that all parameters are available here. And I will search for tag. Okay, so here it is. By clicking on this tiny plus sign, I will add a tag to this particular static mesh. There. Let's name this tag Mark for Destroy, like this. Now, what I'm gonna do is I will go to the third-person character blueprint, and here we need to create the test key. So I will search for keyboard and look for key T, because I'm using T as a test key in my projects. You can use whatever key you want. So let me first find it, S and T, there it is. And on released, I'd like to get all actors with tag. So this one, let me highlight it for you, this one. So get all actors with tag. Basically, what this node will do is it will collect all the actors in the level that had particular tag. For instance, we used tag Mark for Destroy, right? I will copy it just to make sure I'm not making any mistakes. I will copy it and I will paste it here. Now, through this node, we collected all of the actors that have this tag, Mark for Destroy tag. Now comes the question, what do we do with all these actors? I think, why not destroy them? So, to do this, I will drag from out actors here, and I will search for each loop, this one. Now, this node will go through each and every actor that has a tag Mark for Destroy and do whatever we want with them. In our case, we just want them destroyed. So from array element output pin, I will drag it like this and I will say destroy actor. Like this. And basically, this should be it. On completed, let's make a print string so that we know it kind of worked. And in this print string, I will type all worked. Something like this. I mean, it's not really relevant. It's just for the debugging purposes. Now I will compile, save, and test it out. Okay. So if I press the T key, this tube that is in front of me should disappear. Okay. 3, 2, 1. T. And it worked. You see? No casting, no nothing. I just pressed the T key. So let's go through the process again. I ask the engine to collect all the actors that have tag Mark for Destroy. Then, for each and every one of them, I told the engine to destroy it. So no matter how many actors there are in the level that share a tag Mark for Destroy, all of them will be destroyed. Let me demonstrate. So I will copy this tag name from here. I will go to third-person character third-person map. For instance, we can technically add a tag to this static mesh component. It's not component, just static mesh actor. And here I will paste its tag. I'll press enter just to confirm it's there. Save the level and play it again. See, when I press the T key, the static meshes disappeared, which, if you think about it, offers you close to limitless possibilities. And still, while we went through the tags, we went through actor tags, there are still a lot more to learn when it comes to tags. But I think for this lecture, this should be enough, since we went through quite a lot already, and now I want all of this to condense in your mind, and I also want you to practice how to interact with other static meshes, how to interact with blueprint classes, and make them do something. So one blueprint should somehow affect the other one, and this needs to be done through tags. You already know how to attach tags to an actor in real time. The real time part, I mean the runtime. The runtime part was right over here. So this BP status effect attaches the tags to our player character, and you also know how to do it in the level viewport, as we did, like selecting any of these actors, searching for tag, and then adding a tag, whatever tag we want. And then on key press, you could interact with them and make them do different things. Still, this is only entry level, so to say, and there are much more things you could do with tags. But then again, as I said, I think for the time being, this should suffice. This opens a huge foundation for you to practice and to kind of learn how to use them to your benefit, I mean the tags. So, hopefully you found this lecture interesting, and hopefully you found information that I provided you with beneficial for you, and I sincerely hope that you will use everything you learned today. In the next lecture from this tags series, I will focus on component tags, which open like huge new plethora of things you could do with different actors and their components. So thanks again for watching this lecture, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you.